You can start with my hand. It'll be an appetizer.
I've never been someone who takes over the world with brute force, but that day, facing a giant so tall I could barely see his head, I still reached out my arm and let him take the first bite. It's not that I was crazy, I just thought, if you really want to solve a tough problem, you might as well start with the hardest part. Turns out he didn't bite me. He smacked me to the ground, then started talking to me like a hurt kid. You think I got lucky and that's why the giant let me go? Wrong. I came here on purpose. My name is Edward Bloom. I was born in a tiny town in Alabama, so small it could fit in your pocket. Even though the town was small, I always liked testing my limits. Sports, business, academics, you name it, I was good at it. Before long, I became a big deal in our little town. Then one day a giant showed up. He started stealing sheep from the farmers and it didn't stop. People got scared and no one knew what to do. That's when I stepped up. I volunteered to go talk to the giant. Everyone thought I was walking to my death, but no one wanted to come with me. Turns out the giant wasn't some man-eating monster. He was just, well, a troubled big baby. He'd had a huge appetite since he was a kid, always starving, all the time. He didn't mean to scare anyone, let alone hurt them. He was just hungry, so he snuck around stealing sheep. The sheep belonged to the town, and the people were scared of him, so they treated him like a monster. I told him, maybe you're not too big, maybe this town's just too small. He paused for a second. I don't think anyone had ever said that to him before. So I said, hey, guys like us, we should try our luck in the big city. He stared at me for a moment, then gave a small nod. And just like that, with the townspeople cheering, surprised, a little sad, but mostly amazed, I cleaned him up, dressed him like a proper banker, and we set off on a bigger journey. There were two roads to the city. One was newly built, straight and smooth, bright all the way. The other was old and forgotten, twisting, empty, and they said it was haunted. So, without hesitation, I tossed my bag to the giant, patted him on the shoulder, and said, see you on the other side. Then I headed off alone, down the old road no one else dared to take. The deeper I went, the colder it felt, like something invisible was breathing around me. Fog everywhere. Spiders and wasps buzzing all over. It felt like every step was a test. But I didn't stop, because I kept thinking of that old saying, nothing good comes easy. And finally, after who knows how many turns, the path opened up. A green field stretched out in front of me. Neat little houses. Peaceful air. And at the town's entrance, believe it or not, there was a row of shoes hanging from a line. Before I could take it all in, a man in a suit, probably the mayor, walked up smiling, asked me my name, and flipped through a list in his hands. You're supposed to be here, he said, just a little too early. Too early? I froze for a second. A thought crossed my mind. Wait, is this heaven? The mayor's name was Jung Ming. He was warm and welcoming, like he'd been waiting for me. He showed me around the town, and I even ran into an old friend, a poet who'd gone missing years ago. He said he only meant to stay for a short while, but ended up staying 12 years. Just as I was about to ask what kind of magic this place had, a little girl came running up, yanked off my shoes, and sprinted to the town's entrance. She gave them a good toss and hung them right up on that line of shoes. I didn't understand what it meant, but everyone told me not to worry. The grass here's soft, they said. You'll be fine without shoes. And just like that, I stayed. Little by little, I realized Fengdu wasn't as simple as it seemed. That poet, he'd lived here for 12 years and only managed to write 3 lines of poetry. The townspeople partied every night, dancing and singing, lost in an endless celebration. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore. One night, I stood in the middle of the crowd, surrounded by music and laughter, and said, I have to leave. Everyone was stunned. This place is beautiful, they said. Why would you leave? But I just felt, the world's too big, and I'm not ready to stop yet.
How are you gonna make it without your shoes?
And just like that, I walked out of the town, barefoot. The softness of the grass still lingered on my feet, but I knew that wasn't a good enough reason to stay. Was Fengdu heaven, or just another kind of hell? Maybe it was like all those tempting comforts in life. It gives you easy joy, light and pleasant. But if you sink too deep into it, you forget what matters. You forget why you came, and where you were going. Eventually, I made it out of the town and met back up with my giant friend.
What happened to your shoes?
They kinda got ahead of me.
We kept moving and came across a circus. The final act was another giant. Everyone was amazed by his size, but I just frowned in disdain. That's it? I softly whistled. Then my friend, the real giant, walked in. The whole place went silent. Even the circus owner was stunned. He immediately wanted to sign a contract with my giant friend. Finally, my giant had found his calling. I wasn't interested in the circus work at all, but when I turned around, I saw her.
Say, when you meet the love of your life, time stops.
She was wearing a blue dress, like a beam of light stepping out of a dream. I weaved through the frozen crowd, moving toward her, toward a fate whose name I didn't even know yet. Then, in the next second, the clock started ticking again. The crowd snapped back to life, and the wind messed up my hair. And she was right there in front of me, like a firework, gone in an instant. I stood there like a fool. I lost her. Her name, where she went, I didn't know any of it. I'm going to spend every day of the rest of my life looking for her. That or die alone. My bold words had caught the circus owner's attention. He quickly guessed who the girl was, but refused to tell me her name. I admit I had nothing back then. My pockets were emptier than my hair, but he underestimated my real strength. I don't give up. He promised me. For every month I worked, he'd give me a little news about her. First month, her favorite flowers. Second month,
She's going to college.
third month.
She likes music.
So I held on for 3 years. But the more I learned, the harder it was to control the love growing inside me. Then one day, I couldn't take it anymore. I stormed into the owner's room, demanding he finally tell me her name. But what I didn't expect was, when I pushed open the door, it wasn't an answer that jumped out. It was a wolf. I was startled, but then I looked closer and recognized the wolf's eyes. It was the circus owner. Turns out he was a werewolf, but his assistant raised a gun, tears streaming down, whispering, "I'm sorry," ready to shoot him. I didn't have time to think. I jumped in front of the bullet, grabbed a stick, and ran into the woods, leading the wolf away. That's how I stopped a crisis. The next day, the circus owner came out of the forest. He finally let his guard down and told me the name.
Is Sandra Templeton.
I held a big bunch of daffodils and stepped up to her college dorm. The moment the door opened, there she was. Like fate had finally answered my prayers. But her hand was already wearing someone else's ring. Her husband was that chubby guy from childhood who always came in second to me. I'd done everything I could to leave that town, yet the woman I loved got engaged to that loser. By all rights, I should have turned and walked away. But I only took 15 steps before I turned right back.
Sandra Templeton, I love you and I will marry you!
I started trying everything to win her over, sneaking into the teacher's computer to change the PPT, getting a pilot to write a message in the sky. One day, she opened her window to find it covered in daffodils. I had gathered them from 5 different states around. That time she finally softened.
You don't even know me.
Finally. That's when Sandra's fiancé stormed over, yelling for me to stay away from her. I promised I won't hurt her. Then he threw the first punch, and I didn't fight back. I took 37 punches straight, but I didn't fall. Because love isn't about fists, it's about holding on. And the moment I hit the ground, he had already lost. Sandra took off her ring and gave her heart to me. But the good times didn't last. I was forced to enlist. The service was 3 years long. 3 years before I could see Sandra again. I couldn't wait that long, so I volunteered for any dangerous mission just to shorten my time. But I never expected to be parachuted behind enemy lines, and even less expected to meet a pair of conjoined twin sisters who could twist your mind. They shared one body, performing in the enemy's ballroom. I told them I knew some people in the art world who could help them once we got back home. In return, they agreed to help me escape, so the 3 of us set off on the journey home. Though home was more like a long, winding trek. Unfortunately, during those days, no letters could get through. I wrote Sandra 42 letters. None ever sent. War doesn't just break bridges, it breaks connections too. The army thought I was dead and sent her a notification. And she was like someone frozen in a winter without spring, waiting day and night for a phone that would never ring again. And hearing footsteps outside, she'd instinctively run to the window. They say she went 4 whole months without a single good dream. But just when she was about to give up hope, a miracle happened. One sunny afternoon, I stepped into her yard, wearing my uniform polished with medals. When she turned around, the sunlight caught the tips of her hair, and I could hardly tell if she was glowing or if I was still dreaming. Before her tears even fell, I smiled, because I knew this time I would never leave her again.